Good morning. Monday. Today's Monday, May 3rd. I know some of you had difficulty finding us. My Instagram was down this week. We're working on getting it back up, but so today's about half of you didn't make it today, but hopefully next week we'll be in charge. We have a guest with us, my friend Brian Davis, who's staying with us, fellow student of Garchen Rinpoche's. He's been teaching us and leading a small study group that my wife and I are participating in, and we're grateful for him sitting in today, and he will be answering some questions later on. So use the Q&A function. Ask any Dharma questions, meditation questions. He has much more knowledge than I do on all those things. So use this opportunity to ask some questions. We will, basically today we're just going to sit for a bit and we'll talk with Brian a little bit and then answer questions and sit again. Hopefully the Instagram issues will be resolved today. We are planning on having Lama Surya Das next Monday, as long as the issues get resolved today. If they don't, then we'll probably postpone it. But hopefully that's being worked out. With that in mind, let's set our intentions for today with the 4 immeasurables. May all beings have happiness and the causes of happiness. May all beings be free from suffering and the causes of suffering. May all beings not be separated from the happiness that has never known suffering. May they rest in equanimity, free from attachment, anger, and aversion. So we won't do a review today because I doubt there's any new students, because anybody who made it knew how to get in. So let's sit for 11 minutes. I mean, I may say a few things during, but I may not. I mean, you've been doing this for a while now, so let's just sit for 11 minutes as we have been, and then we'll talk. All right. Great. Okay. So Brian, who is with us today, is a longtime student of Garchen Rinpoche. He actually completed a 3-year retreat in India when they practice advanced techniques of meditation and study. At one time, he was actually running the Garchen Buddhist Institute in Arizona in a more administrative capacity, and he's a really great teacher and has a lot of knowledge. So we're very grateful to have him today. I'm going to fill you in on how this developed here. Okay. This started out just as a secular meditation class, out of interest, people's interest, just to learn meditation during the pandemic and the quarantine time. And a lot of people got interested in Dharma and questions about, reincarnation and karma and Buddha. And so we did the 101 was about 7 weeks, and then we went into 102 and asked permission both times, first to do this meditation from Garchen Rinpoche. Yeah. And then I told him that people were interested in Dharma, and he said, keep the focus on mind. Right. Because Buddha is not the name of a man, but is the name of mind. And then we went into, basic Dharma stuff, and karma was a big one and still is a big topic, and reincarnation and, Four Noble Truths and all these things. And one thing I'd like to ask you, just to, I think the students can really benefit hearing how to use this practice of basically calm abiding, shamatha meditation as a foundation for Dharma practice.
Yeah, so where to begin? I guess you can say everything sort of like begins and ends in awareness, right? So we're so generally caught up in kind of all these tentacles that reach out, outer objects, inner objects of thought, outer, just whatever the outer object is that we kind of grasp and attach to. So it's all the releasing of the grasping, right, and all the like kind of letting go of all these tensions we have, whether it's from like our body, speech, or mind, right? Whether we're thinking it, feeling it, expressing it, the single root is going to be our awareness to the situation, and how quickly we can kind of connect with that noticing of whatever the clinging or attachment is. And that's all going to start with like this kind of practice, right? There's no noticing without sitting down and trying to notice. So this is kind of the foundation of everything. And if we think of like the term Dharma from its like the traditional aspect of Dharma, right? There's so many meanings to the actual root word Dharma, but Dharma as like truth, right? And Dharma as like things, you can say. There's so many dharmas, right? The dharma of this, the dharma of that, like the dharma of samsara, the dharma of like conditioned normal living, and then dharma as like Buddha Shakyamuni used it, the dharma of truth, right? So the only way you can actually begin to even touch like what is the truth, right? You have to first start cutting all the things that have entrapped us in this cycle of like basically non-satisfaction. It's like I do this, I'm not satisfied, and it makes some sort of emotion arise, some sort of mental content arises. Rinse, cycle, repeat, every day, every minute, every hour. It's like we're in this constant rinse, cycle, repeat of just non-satisfaction, and we end up doing the same things over and over and over, thinking there's going to be some sort of satisfaction from it. And there might be like 10 minutes, 10 seconds, maybe a day, maybe a week. But in the end, it ultimately fails, And the only thing that doesn't fail you is kind of this awareness and the access to like this open plane of awareness, right? Because there's nothing there that's disturbing you, theoretically, right? We have to like touch it. But your own awareness is like spacious, like the sky, like space itself. It's groundless. I mean, like you can't really find where it begins or it ends. Its qualities are like manifold beyond anything you can imagine, because just think of the senses. You can see, hear, smell, taste, touch, think. So every quality that you've ever experienced, every quality that you've ever enjoyed, or every quality you've like pushed away or rejected, arises from or plays within this awareness, right? So kind of coming back and understanding and touching that awareness all starts with like this shamatha, and like settling the mind. Okay, so like in the internet world, online, you hear like the outer Great Reset, World Economic Forum. You're gonna own nothing, you're gonna be happy, right? This is like this kind of like World Economic Forum thing that people are talking about. But that's not really a solution to happiness per se, or like being at ease. So you can think of shamatha as like the Great Reset. You have hundreds of opportunities, thousands of opportunities each day to like hit the reset button. So owning nothing in meditation is like your thoughts will arise, your perceptions will arise, grasping will happen, positive or negative or happy or sad, kind of like connotations will start to like spiral out, and then it becomes dense, right? Even the search for happiness becomes dense. The search for trying to like cut attachments, it's dense. It's like it never ends. Okay, reset, shamatha, breath. Hone into your own like the thing that's thinking, and you have the opportunity to do that at any time. And it's one of the few. It's one of like the only thing actually that you have control of at any moment. So you can think of like your the condition that we're in, right? We're each in our own condition. So it doesn't matter where you live. It doesn't matter what, race, religion, status, economic disposition, uh, even as so far as like, let's say like the most extreme. You're in prison and you're on death row and you have like 1 minute to live, right? Or you're like, what's the opposite? Like completely free, like maybe like even like a nomadic homeless person with unlimited resources. What do they all share in common? It's like this momentary ability to like hit this reset button. So this is really the beginning of all that, and like understanding when to hit it, how to hit it, and making it become automatic so you don't have to think about it. That's shamatha is like, this is the key to that. Everything comes from like this sitting, this beginning sitting. So even like this aspiration prayer in the beginning, may all mother sentient beings have happiness and the causes of happiness, right? Liberated from suffering, the causes of suffering. May they never be separated from the happiness which is free from sorrow. May they rest in equanimity, free from attachment and aversion. So like, how can you be happy? How can you achieve happiness beyond sorrow? How can you achieve like equanimity? The starting gate of all dharmas like that is like sitting and getting to know yourself and know like where the self arises from, like where our concepts arise from, what that means, like what is their essence. That's the gateway. There's no dharma practice, there's no truth without like touching where truth arises from, right? So it's like, if you can say dharma is a course, then like you need to sit down and go to the class, and the class is like turning in and looking at your thoughts and connecting with your emotions and all this. So it's really the gateway to everything, is like this right here, sitting with yourself and kind of just noticing and seeing what goes on. And then of course it's like 84,000 gates of dharma is like the traditional saying. So there's so many methods and so many techniques and so many flavors. There's Zen, there's Mahayana, Tibetan Buddhism, da da da. And actually, it doesn't even matter, Buddhism or not Buddhism, like Hinduism, whatever, Christianity, Islam, Sufism, like Taoism, it doesn't matter. The basis that everybody shares is awareness. So who cares what you believe? Dharma is actually not even really about belief. It's about knowing, right? You need to know. So labels don't really even apply. But the foundation is like the sitting, awareness itself, right? And like becoming familiar with what's going on, right? We're actually not familiar with the process of things. It's like usually like by the time the process happens, we're already like 17 steps removed. It's like, so the rated G example I use is like ice cream. Okay, you're relaxing in your house or wherever you're walking out, and you have a thought of ice cream, right? Then it's like waffle cone, sugar cone, cup, Baskin Robbins, Ben and Jerry's, chocolate, vanilla, sprinkles. What's on top of it? And by the time you've arrived, like it's been like 20 minutes of this spiraling out of something so simple, right? We put so much effort and get so caught up in this stream that like you can really spend like 1 hour thinking about what kind of ice cream you want. In reality, like it could be as simple as like, I want ice cream. Just walk to whatever the nearest ice cream place is, and then you look and then you make a decision on the spot. But instead of being like spontaneous with things and like having this like spacious freedom, we end up getting so entangled in this process of thinking and concept, so, and that's not free, right? That's like, even though like maybe you think the ice cream, I'm going to feel happy eating the ice cream, the process to get to that 10 minutes of freedom of feeling happy eating the ice cream consumed like 8 times the amount of time that you even ate the ice cream for. So this is all of our actions, all of the chains and shackles we have come from this process of like self grasping, self clinging, that we put the chains on ourselves. So this shamatha method is the beginning of unleashing the chains.
And building from there, like basically what you described is very much the Hinayana, the foundational, ground of how we build the practice, and then going to the next level Like Rinpoche tells us,
Mm.
the only, the cause of suffering is self-grasping. The only cause of happiness is being a benefit to other beings. How do we, from this foundation of awareness, build into that more Mahayana,
Yeah.
flavor of Buddhism and working for the benefit and focusing on towards the benefit of other beings?
Yeah. So then you can think of, so like everything's contained in the opening prayer that you guys are doing, right? And this is like the foundation of all Mahayana prayers, actually, or intention. Prayer is maybe not even the right word. This is an aspiration, right? We're aspiring to be something and touch something greater than like this kind of like wound up knot of string that we are, right? So think about benefiting beings, right? There's so many outer ways we think of benefiting. Okay, like you see somebody on the street who's hungry, right? You give them $1, you buy them a sandwich or something. Okay, this is relieving a little bit of like tension and suffering on the person, but it's still like quote relative. There's an end to it, right? When the sandwich is gone and the dollar is gone, that person is right back in the same disposition they were before. Like that's more of an extreme example, right? Or maybe like the middle of the extreme. You can even say like there's so many situations in the world people are starving in the midst of war, and that's like extreme suffering, right? So the ultimate like scope and aim of Mahayana Dharma, right? This kind of like benefit to liberate beings. The only liberation that really truly will be lasting. So like when it says, may all beings have happiness and the causes of happiness. Okay, the causes of happiness are applying methods that are going to eradicate the clinging, right? And eradicate like this like self-grasping, shamatha. May they be liberated from suffering and the causes of suffering. Okay, suffering and the cause of suffering is again like self-grasping. It's like building on this first verse. May all mother sending beings have happiness, and then like ultimately leading to like equanimity. So like being equanimous and like not kind of wavering, again, is coming from the shamatha and the intent of benefiting and helping beings. Like this is from like dharmic ultimate view, right? So relative bodhicitta and ultimate bodhicitta. Ultimately, like the ultimate source of benefiting is being able to like do what everybody's doing right now, right? Like you have a venue, a get together, people like connect and they share their experience and they talk and they hash out this dilemma of being bound. You become a little bit more open and freedom and like this spaciousness. And then the aspiration is to be able to pass that on to others. Okay, now you gain some experience in like self-liberating all these emotions, and then that will naturally benefit beings. You can say it's like this kind of like natural benefit, right? Because let's say you're not so tight, clingy, graspy, caught up in this knot. Okay, when you go outside, you go to the bank, you go to a restaurant or something. Instead of this tension and like self-projection and self-clinging, and maybe somebody brings you like the wrong thing, instead of being so annoyed, I didn't order that. That's, that projection is cut because you kind of understand that it's all this spiraling out of your concepts. And then it's like, oh, it's okay, no problem. Like you can bring me sure, go get the right thing. That interaction in itself is already benefiting that person, right? So your actions and like your mind state, that kind of like spreading out, you can say like mandala, right? Everybody has heard the term mandala. Like your own mandala of awareness kind of like spreads out and that affects somebody else. And then that becomes an effect for somebody else. Basically, the bullshit doesn't start spiraling. There's not a snowball effect. So if you can cut the snowball effect of your own emotions and your own projections, and then that is a little bit, it loosens a little bit, right? The circle around you. Okay, now that person's circle around them, they had one less like negative interaction in the day. That becomes a little bit more loose, and then so on and so forth, right? That kind of just, that pebble in the water ripples out. But first, you have to be the pebble and know how to hit the water, right? So you can even say this shamatha is already practicing like compassion towards others. ultimately your own self-liberation and releasing of all this tension and clinging and grasping and aggression and microaggressions. You want to become that first ripple, and then that ripple spreads out to like the lake of beings. It's really your intention, you know, and your motivation. So if you wake up, you do a practice like this, shamatha, and self-investigation, and like noticing the arising and falling of thoughts, and kind of like dissipating this. And then you apply this like fourfold motivation that you do in the beginning of the class, and you recall that throughout the day. Like, you need to recall it. It needs to become habituated. Okay, who cares? We're all gonna have moments where we mess, you know, it's like inevitable. We're still in a human body. So we're gonna have a moment where like, "Ugh," we bark back. Then once you bark back, reset button. Like, we have to habituate the reset. Okay, breathe, reset, it's okay. May all mother sentient beings have happiness. And okay, how is that happiness gonna arise? It's definitely not gonna come solely from like an outer experience of giving some item. That's a great start, and we should not stop doing that however we can. But ultimately, like, that reset and that space of like calming and releasing is going to become a bigger and bigger and bigger and bigger ripple, you know, and then sort of like the magnetism of that being can be felt. So we've all experienced somebody in our life, most likely, that without any, it doesn't matter, like a spiritual like practitioner, monk, or what, like, we've probably all met somebody who, like, just being around that person, it's like, you feel at ease, like, right? And the only way you can really feel at ease around somebody that has that like magnetism and projection, I guarantee like their mind is like pretty settled. Because if their mind is agitated, and like everything branches out and stems out through the body, right? So the colloquial word that we use is like, I don't know, man, I wasn't feeling the vibe of that place. Like the vibes, right? Oh, I didn't feel the vibe. But what is vibe other than people's own awareness and mind, like projecting out through their body and their intention and like their mannerisms, right? Like, you can look on somebody's face, or you can like feel the tension in the air. This all stems from one source. All of that goes back to, you're either aware or not aware of what you're doing. So this Mahayana aspiration needs to become more momentary, right? Okay, next moment, next moment. We slip, we fall. We have a series of bad events, you know, or like the bowling pins fall over, the dominoes fall. Okay, pick them up again. And it's really about habituation. It's like anything else. You're gonna train doing like, I don't know, you're a musician, you're an athlete, you're a mathematician. It's repetition and training. So the mind is the same thing. Repetition, training, repetition, training. And then over a certain amount of time, that needing to hit the reset, I need to hit reset, I need to hit reset, becomes like very natural, right? It just becomes sort of automatic. And then the gap between needing to do something, like I need to think of this, becomes spontaneous action. And then the benefit increases, right? So even somebody like what's like Nelson Mandela, Martin Luther King, like this sort of activity, the magnetism, the action itself ripples beyond space and time, you know? Even beings are gone physically, like, but their words, their intent, like the ripple, the wave of that spreading out is so intense, you know? And this is kind of like Mahayana motivation, you know, benefiting others.
One of the things we talk about a lot is, you're talking about compassion and having that awareness, and people coming at, you know, interacting with people who sometimes are very angry or trying to do harm. And we spoke about a lot, being a Buddhist or doing this kind of practice doesn't mean being a doormat.
100%.
People, you know, are concerned sometimes. Well, does this mean just being a passive person and letting things just wash over me all the time? And we've talked about it a lot. I'd love to hear your, you know, take on that.
Yeah, definitely. You don't want to be a doormat, right? You don't want to just be walked over. Okay, this is like from a modern point of view too, right? I'll say like current modern world. I think it doesn't matter what area of like this like contemporary sphere we live in. especially in the West, like Western influenced societies or whatnot, it's this, we have this concept of there's a heavy Judeo-Christian influence. There's a heavy Greek philosophical influence. So and right now there's a heavy, especially in the West, right? I can say there's a huge influence of Freudian and Jungian psychology, right?
Sure.
So there's a conflict in terminology. So from the West, it's healthy ego, I, right? It's I. And then Eastern philosophy is there's no I. So then it becomes we think when we start approaching meditation and kind of this Eastern approach practices, oh, it says no I. So just the doormat syndrome, actually, it's a syndrome of no matter what anybody says, I shouldn't react. I shouldn't defend myself. I shouldn't stick up. We need to have a healthy sense of we need a healthy sense of I. Not this ultimate I exist beyond all things. But look, if you don't have a positive kind of healthy relationship toward yourself, okay, from Western psychology, you need self-love. If you can't love yourself, and you can't be comfortable in your own skin, then it's going to be extremely difficult to dismantle that self from an Eastern perspective, right? Because this Buddhadharma is about going in and seeing that this self doesn't exist so solidly as we think. So how can you dismantle something if you don't have a good relationship with it in the first place? You're going to be basically stuck in this. Actually, let's just call it the doormat syndrome. You're going to be stuck in that, and you're going to be miserable in your practice, essentially. And already practicing is going to bring up enough stuff, right? We're going to have moments of this, ugh. So you don't want to compound that. No, you need to if it's if you see a piece of trash in your path, right? Don't even think. You just pick up and throw the trash away, right? If you're walking on the sidewalk and there's a pile of dog shit in front of you, you step around it, right? It's not nothing matters, right? It's not just super indecisive. And the same thing with things coming into you. Look, if somebody's hurting you and you feel hurt, then there needs to be a mechanism to say, okay, that's hurts me, right? Then you can go back later and look at why do I hurt? Why do I feel this? But in the moment, we need to assess situations, and we need to create an area of safety around our being. Because without feeling safe and nurtured, then how can you plant this seed of awareness? It's impossible. Right. Yeah. So no, definitely defending yourself, defending others. We can't use the excuse of it's their karma. If you see an old lady getting beat up in the street, you can't just go, well, that's her karma.
Right. It's also your karma to be there and observe it, yeah, and maybe intervene and help.
Right. Right. And karma means action, right? So karma is kind of misunderstood word too. Karma doesn't just mean whatever comes to you. There's the karmic seed. So every action is karma. Karma simply means action. So it's the seed of karma is your action. Then there's the fruition of karma, right? So things come up. That fruitional karma is nothing but a seed of your action. And this is where karma can get the confusion of karma. It's just karma. Look, the lady getting beat up, or me, something bad happening to me, losing my wallet, getting beat up or something, or whatever, breaking an arm or whatever it is. Yeah, that's my karma for sure. Sometime in the past, because in Buddhadharma, and it's reincarnation is tied into it, right? That's a big subject too, reincarnation. But Buddhism talks about it's beginningless time and endless time. So it's a given in Dharma, right? It's just a supposition. It's there. You were never born. Ultimately, you will never die. Then we have these displays that arise. So at some point in limitless time, there was an action that was done that creates the result of that action to arise. So something bad can be happening, and yes, that can be the result of karma from that person. But it doesn't mean that person in that moment deserves to have suffering come upon them, right? You need to assess the situation and help. You need to be brave in situations like that. So karma is extremely confusing in that sense. It's
And also, like, if someone's doing harm to you, you're not being of benefit to them to allow it,
Oh,
right?
absolutely.
You're
Yeah.
absolutely you're actually
Yeah.
making it worse by allowing them
Yeah.
to
Yeah.
indulge in their negative
Yeah.
actions.
You're enabling them to
Right,
plant the
right.
seed of karma, right? And it's also on yourself too. It's like if something bad is happening to you and you feel it, like you're just allowing more impressions and imprints to go into yourself. So this is where they talk about like compassionate action, right? We talked yesterday about like, okay, I don't have children, but like Michael's raised kids, and it's like if you're, or okay, I've experienced it though with like with my mom, right? It's like I go to touch the hot stove. Okay, compassion isn't like slowly like, oh, I'm just gonna walk. You get away, no, right? Maybe you slap the hand, bah, you yell. That's like rough. It's compassion still, right? You're trying to stop somebody from damaging themselves and being hurt. So compassion isn't just like you're a piece of wet tofu and like you just fall apart at the easy, no, like
Right.
there needs to be like discrimination in action, right? And even this discrimination and knowing how to act more spontaneously, or I should say acting spontaneously without thinking about it, also arises from shamatha, right? Because the more you break down this barrier of thinking what you need to do, then it becomes more spontaneous. Like a sport, musical instrument, like you're not thinking about, like in basketball, it's like, it's just you just shoot, you run down the court, like your field of awareness is open, so spontaneity develops, and like
And that discernment, that spontaneity, really has to come through that practice of cultivating awareness and
yeah,
tasting it and developing
yeah.
it through meditation.
There's no other way.
There's no other way.
There's zero way to have any attainment of even like remembering like this fourfold aspiration that you do. It's talking to yourself too. So we also forget that in practice. May all beings be happy, and then like you just completely, not me, like not me, right? That's the other thing of like that's the other like sickness of the like Mahayana sickness you can get. Like I don't need to be happy. Well, how the hell are you gonna help anybody if you're miserable and not happy? Like that fourfold aspiration is like it says all beings, all mother sentient beings. Like you are also all mother sentient beings. So practicing is also for your own benefit. So the twofold benefit of self and other, right? At the same time you're benefiting yourself, you're benefiting somebody else. And this goes down to like a healthy sense of I. Yeah, don't you want to feel good and like benefit yourself? Don't you want your own situation to be more at ease? And at the same time, by doing that, automatically that ripple goes out. Something like that.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Thank you. Great. Let's see if we have any questions from
Sure, yeah.
our students. Thank you, Brian.
Yeah,
That
of
was
course.
very, very well put. Okay. Being Italian, I basically have built-in anxiety as a standard feature of my life. When things are normal, I'm able to focus on meditation and clearing my thoughts. However, when something's going on, I struggle to get out of my head, spiraling thoughts. Brian, do you have any additional tools I can add to my box?
So I'm assuming from reading and hearing that you're talking about during the time of sitting, right? Applying the method, then it's relatively easy to kind of like notice the arisings and notice the self-grasping, right, for lack of a better term, that comes up. And then when you're in the world, out and about in your day, at work, interacting with people, the anxiety arises in the interaction, in the movement aspect, right? Okay. The only thing you can do in the beginning, right? There's no like magic shortcut to like releasing that anxiety right away, right? The only thing you can do is go back to the reset button. It's really about noticing, and it's really about training yourself in catching catching the storyline. We can just think of anxiety as another storyline, okay? Self pride and ego, like I'm better than everybody, storyline, right? It's all ego. I'm no good, full pride, ego. Pride isn't just like pride is also like I'm worthless. It's full pride. It's just the other side of pride. Anxiety, right? people like, I'm nervous, what's going on, like I feel like I need to do something, like pride, self-clinging. The only antidote, the only way is habituate the reset button, right? Don't judge yourself at how long you've been going in the storyline, right? It might be 1 hour, it might be one day, it might be like I had a bad week, like it might be the whole week you had a bad storyline. It doesn't matter. At some point, recall, like recall will arise naturally, right? You can't even think like, now I'm going to recall, because the moment you thought, now I want to recall, it's already recalling. So when the thought of reset comes, like be on that reset. Okay, take your breaths, you know. Even if you're out in public, even if you're dealing with somebody, you can afford to take one breath, you know. Okay, well, the person's interacting with you, and while you're thinking, I want to slap this person so bad right now, at that moment you can like take in the breath. And then, as you told me, like this, the method you're applying, clouds in the sky, that thought of whatever it is, okay, it's a cloud. What happens to the clouds? They dissipate, right? So we're actually training with concepts. Like use a concept to like clear out the other concepts. The more you hit this reset button and go to this recall, the gap between that is going to get shorter and shorter and shorter, meaning the gap of remembering to hit the recall button gets shorter, and then the gap of maintaining some kind of like spaciousness becomes longer and longer. It's just training it over and over and over. So it's good you have this ability to sit down. Okay, this is like I'm a terrible athlete, but I'll just use the athletic reference, right? This is the scrimmage. This is the practice time with your team. You sit down with your Dharma team, your meditation team, you're training. But when it's time to play, you're out in the world moving. Your training is going to allow you to like recall what you need to do during the movement time and play. Yeah, I wish there was like some kind of like magic antidote, you know, but it's not. It's Dharma and meditation and cultivating self-awareness is habituation, plain and simple. Habituation, habituation. Everything is habit, right? All of our negative attitude towards ourself, habit. All of the way we look at the world and interact with people, habit. What you want to eat, okay, maybe there's a little like some like biochemical history going on, right? Physiological history. It's still a habit. According to Dharma, that's your past life habit of being born over and over. Everything is a habitual imprint arising. Sitting and resting with breath and awareness and like letting things dissolve is cutting the habit. So don't even like the anxiety arises. Okay, it's okay. Actually, this is a big topic too. It's okay. Like we don't need to punish ourselves. And in Western society, we're so good at that. Self-flagellation. I'm not worthy. Like I'm just like I'm useless. I'm a sinner from the beginning. Like, you know, this this is a good thing to cut. It's okay, man. Like this is the way things are. Accept it and then just hit the reset button. Hit the reset button. Yeah.
Isn't the word meditation? I forget if Sanskrit or Tibetan
Yeah.
or something. It actually translates as habituation or something.
Yeah. This is Victoria was talking about this.
Yeah.
Gom.
Gom.
The Tibetan word for meditation is gom, which means habituate, become familiar, learn over. Because ultimately, the end game, you know, years and years and years, is like you don't need to so much. You don't need to like habituate anymore, because that habituation and that pattern has become spontaneous, right? So habituation leads to spontaneity, right? So playing an instrument, you practice, you practice, you practice. In the end, you don't need to like you just do it. Driving is like the main example like a lot of teachers use. And it's a great example actually. In the beginning, it's like so much information coming in. Oh, left, right, brake, turn signal. But after like 3 or 4 years of driving, what are you doing? Like, hey, how's it? You're talking, you're like, but still your awareness is completely open. You see all the cars, well, for most people, right? You see the cars coming, you understand when to stop. Why? You've habituated like movement, right? And thoughts are movement, And in the beginning, sitting is habituating with this movement and stillness, right? The thoughts subside, it's still. The clouds arise, it's movement. The thoughts subside, it's still. And then it becomes kind of this ebb and flow, and you understand that thoughts, clouds, and the clouds dissipating, the source is the same, your own awareness. So again, habituation will lead to this kind of like, it's fireworks in the sky. You can go to like a firework demonstration. It's like, boom, right? What's going to be the most exhausting thing? It's like this firework, that firework, this firework, that firework, right? As opposed to like, if you let your vision kind of rest in the center of the sky, then you can catch all the fireworks. But normally it's like this thought, that thought, this thought, instead of what's the center of the sky? Your own awareness, like maybe coming back to your breath, coming back to like the settled feeling of like sitting, you know, like this is the center of the sky. Your thoughts are the fireworks, you know, the clouds just, yeah. But again, habituation. Habituate until you do not need to habituate, which of course for us is going to be, you know, years and years and years, but slowly, slowly.
What you were saying about self-flagellation and that self-hatred and things like that reminded me of a story when Dalai Lama was giving a teaching and someone asked him a question about that, and he had no idea what they were talking about because it's very much a Western.
It's not culturally
illness.
there.
It's not culturally. He was like, "What do you mean self-hatred?" They're like, "Well, people, you know, we hate ourselves, we're hard on ourselves," and he really had no concept of what that was about.
It's almost like, why would you do that?
Right.
What? Yeah, no concept. And this is a carryover, right? And here's the interesting thing is, even if we haven't been exposed to like, let's say we don't come from like a deeply religious like background family, we weren't exposed to like classes in like Greek philosophy, and it's so embedded in our culture and our like in our cellular structure that it's like it's really part of us. Like it's really a part of like, okay, I'm saying Western collective now, but it can even be like this contemporary mind, right? Because like we're on Zoom, it's like the entire world. So like we're all sharing kind of a piece of this shared collective culture in a way. And it's like, okay, even like Japanese culture, right? Like just I didn't fulfill like the wish of like how many like work suicides are there, and like it's like it's the self. I'm not worthy. I'm not worthy. No, it needs like actually you're worthy. You're so worthy. And this is like what Mahayana tells us. Like, no, you're so worthy that your ultimate only job is to understand your own condition and then radiate that out. That's like the ultimate job, you know?
Right.
Yeah.
Thank you, Brian.
Yeah, of course.
Thank you for that question, Francesca. So Cassandra asks, thank you, Brian. So is it possible a person can have and notice they've had dissatisfaction as early as childhood, even if it was mild, and meditation can help with that as well?
Is it possible a person can have and notice they've had? Yes, 100%. So through sitting, right? Through cultivation, sitting, quieting your mind. Actually, one of the results or outcomes is that no, actually, I'll say you're very fortunate if you're actually noticing something from childhood, right? Usually, we suppress these things, or they get suppressed naturally, or our memory fades, and then that is some sort of habitual pattern that just, you know, we're like I'm 46. It's like, oh shit, I just noticed now I'm 46. Actually, that pattern arose when I was like 3. And I've been carrying it my whole life, and it's affected all of my actions, all of the decisions I make, and the way I take in information goes through like this filter also. So you can think of life experiences and like let's say traumas for right now instead of like positive things, because positive things are also a filter. But traumas are a huge filter, right? So there's reality itself. Let's say Dharma. There's reality, or truth, you can say. There's the way things are. And fundamentally, we all have access to the way things are. That's, say, our awareness with no filter. And then, so we collectively share that. There's like a shared truth that we can all access. But there's also the filtered truth. And this is our karmic imprints. So like this trauma is a karmic imprint, you can say. Karma meaning like the arising of like something that was done, and then there's an arising, we experience that. All these filters are imprints arising, and you can think of it as like, let's say there's like the pure spectrum of light, right? Light, if you were able to see somehow, like without even your eyes, like somehow, right now it's like kind of fantasy, connect with like what light really is, it's not going to look like it is now, right? So like I know nothing about science, but like the reason we see the sky is blue is because the light is filtering a certain way. And it's the same thing with our experiences. Our traumas and our likes and our dislikes, basically habitual imprints, are a filter. And by the time they hit our awareness, or by the time we notice it arising through our awareness, right? There's so many ways to say it. It's colored our experience. So the more you can notice where these filters are and dissolve the filter, then the more kind of like purity of that light can be rested in. So it's releasing knots. You can think of these filters as like knots that bind the smooth flowing at easeness of our own like awareness. So many filters, it's hard to be at ease. And when you're not at ease, all this tension, right, it creates our daily patterns and reactions. So the more you can notice like past, childhood thing, or like, even something from last week or last year, the more you notice it and recall it. And the key point is this: don't judge it, rest with it. So whatever it is, good or bad, like the first thing you need to do is have like touch the energetic feeling behind it. Before a thought and an action, there's an energetic correspondence, right? So let's say somebody calls me a jerk in the street, right, but uses a harsher word, It's like, what happens first? I mean, we can all understand. First, there's like, right, like your solar plexus, like there's a shot of energy, right? Or you feel threatened. It's like, and then from this energetic experience, then you react conceptually with a thought or an action. So these things that are traumas from the past get bound up in our body, right? With body tension somewhere. There's an energetic feeling, and then we conceptually branch out from there. So the more you can like touch it, usually we're afraid to, like, I don't want to go there. It's so traumatic for me. Like, I don't want to go there. And that's totally understandable. Of course, who wants to like in like our normal mind, who the hell would want to go back and touch trauma, right? But the only way like it's going to get released is like touching it. What does touching it mean? What does sitting with it mean? It means there's a feeling. It means connect with the feeling, place your awareness with that feeling. What does place your awareness mean? It just means be aware of that and let it kind of like, it's like vibrating. If you hold on to it and like encapsulate it, it's just going to vibrate stronger. You might be able to suppress it for a little bit, but next week, next month, next year, next minute, it'll still vibrate. The best thing you can do is like, instead of going like this, like turn this way and like release a little bit. Then this feeling of tension, this like trauma can actually have space to breathe and let go, And this is kind of the beauty of Buddhadharma too. Because the self isn't like some permanent thing, right? Like the concept of yourself has changed since you were a child. 10 years ago, it's like you're not thinking the exact way you think now. Because we have this ability to change, that trauma can also kind of like release and be at ease. It's a long-winded way of saying you need to hit the reset button over and over and over and over and over.
And those things like childhood trauma and
Yeah.
those events, also like therapy and counseling, kind of
Yeah.
are a similar approach. You're kind of becoming aware. You're looking at it. You're examining it. You're giving it some space instead of just like avoiding it and hiding it. Or
Absolutely, yeah. So this is also one benefit we have with like kind of like the traditions that we've carried on from like this like Western cultural traditions. One of the benefits can be that. So we talked about before, like needing that, you need to have a sense of healthy self. You can't like this this self-hatred and doubt, right? So like therapeutic methods are one way, right? To like build up and kind of like release and like build up a healthy self. And then Dharma is another, right? So let's put it this way. You need to have a confident, healthy self and be able to like release kind of some of these like emotional blockages and past traumas. And one way to do that is like through talking. Because normally, like even with our partners and our parents, it's like, right, there's like judgment, there's, or even that could be the source of trauma that you're in. So like talking about it with the source is not going to necessarily do anything. You need a neutral source where you can release. If you think about like therapy and talking as a safe place to release, right? To somebody, to another energetic, embodied human existence, right? Then you can like even safely apply the breaking down of that self, right? And this is a thing that happens in the West. I mean, I can say being like a Westerner from like the U.S., right? It's like there's a heavy tendency to reject everything and just plaster it and paste it onto like, for in my case, like I'm exposed to like Tibetan Buddhist tradition, right? This Vajrayana tradition. Paste it on top of that. But it doesn't work, you know? I'm just taking my old dispositions and predispositions and putting it on top of a new color. I went from like thinking in a certain way, like self-flagellation in this tradition and like self-hatred from this tradition. I didn't deal with it. And it's like, well, here's a new color. I'll just put it on top of that. It's not going to work, you know? It's actually going to make you, it's going to make you more crazy, actually. Crazy, I don't mean like clinically insane. I mean, it's going to make you like more stress, more tension, more arising, you know, more anxiety. So if you're comfortable with like other tool sets, completely 100%, like use that. And then you can use Dharma to like dismantle, like Dharma is about dismantling concepts and seeing the truth. And then like other modalities are about building up your self-worth to something where you can function healthy, you know. Then you can take that healthy functioning and look at its true meaning, right? Because in the East, like you said with the Dalai Lama, there's not even the concept of like, what do you mean? Or like in the West, like I hate my parents. Like in like Tibetan culture, Eastern culture, for the most part, it's like, what? How could you possibly like what? It's inconceivable, you know. So we need to be honest with like the society we're in, where we're at, techniques we have, and then understand the purpose of Dharma. Dharma is not okay. It's not, and it is. Its ultimate aim isn't a tool to make you like a healthy person. It's about understanding your true nature. It's about understanding what you are and like why you are, right? Of course, that's going to make you and help you become a healthy embodiment, but you need to already be somewhat healthy as you start, you know? Something like that.
All right, thank you.
Yeah,
we're over an hour. I mean,
Yeah.
Brian, do you have a few more minutes?
Yeah, we can do a few.
Jelena asks, how do we know that our judgment of the situation is truthful? How to create healthy boundaries when dealing with narcissistic behavior of another person while still being compassionate? Thank you.
Yeah, this is tricky, right? Because we're coming from a place of like right, we're not in like complete open clarity, right, all the time. So it's true, it's difficult to understand if our judgment of an action or situation is necessarily the most beneficial or the most appropriate response, right? I guess it depends also on the severity of the situation, okay? So like the example we used in the beginning, if you see somebody being like beaten, right? It's kind of a coarse example. It's like that person's being beaten, they're feeling pain, right? Then one angle could be this, right? Well, let's just hash it out theoretically. Like one angle could be that person getting beaten just beat somebody or killed somebody, right? So like we didn't see the full thing. It was hard for us to judge the entire situation. But if we're coming from a place of like Dharma, right? We're talking about like a dharmic perspective now. Yeah. It's not for us to like let that person also get beaten to death. Because the person beating the person who just beat somebody to death is now accumulating, right? More karma for beating the person, right? So that very coarse example, like there can be multiple layers to that. It doesn't matter. The first thing is to like something really bad is happening to somebody that can be stopped for a moment, right? Even if the person who did something horrible, like their fundamental nature is still like, what do they have? What do they have that they haven't accessed? That they're caught up in? They're caught up in their concepts, the sense of self, the sense of pride, anger, desire, ignorance, pride, jealousy. It's so tight that they committed an action that harmed somebody. Ultimately, where did that come from? It's a cloud in the sky. It arose, but however, they're like so focused on, it's not a cloud at that point. They're like in the middle of a hurricane, but still the basis is like this open sky. So we need to understand that every being actually has this open basis, from an ant to a human being. Let's just say like what we can see, right? Human realm, or like this world realm. Like super small insect to like a blue whale, right? That's, I guess, the biggest living being now. Every size, every manner still has some sense of self-preservation, so we need to like understand that aspect. Yeah, the like clarity and judgment is very difficult. It's subtle. There's no like super clear answer, and that's also okay. Like there's not maybe a clear answer. I think the easiest way to say is, in the moment, is it going to cause more harm, or is it going to alleviate the harm, right? And you can base your actions of body, speech, and mind through that, right? Is it going to exasperate the situation, or is it going to alleviate the situation? Even if it alleviates it by like the nth degree, then like we can apply this method to like alleviate it even a little bit. If it's going to like push it even a little bit and make it worse, then we also have the ability to like remove ourselves from the situation. And if we can't understand and the situation is overwhelming, then better to like maybe move out a little bit. Okay, example, extreme. You're in a crowd, like the whole crowd is doing something now. Well, maybe it's better not to just join in the crowd, right? Because like it's overwhelming, and there's enough karma with the crowd already. Like you can't really do much anyway. So this discernment, right? It's about discerning the situation. The clarity of discernment also has one source: what you did in the beginning. Why? Because the more you can come to this natural reset and understand the spiraling out of thoughts and the clouds, then the clearer and the quicker you're going to be able to like discern the situation. Because what is a situation other than somebody's thoughts going out of control, somebody's thoughts manifesting in the physical world? So this clarity of discernment will come, it will become more easy to kind of like act on that through the actual sitting and breathing. Again, there's no magic thing. It's like reset, reset, reset. Aspiration prayer, understanding what that aspiration prayer means. What does the aspiration prayer in the beginning mean? It means you need to kind of reset. May all sentient beings have happiness and the causes of happiness. It doesn't say may some. It doesn't say may only the people I agree with on this side. May only the people that do. It's literally may, and it doesn't just say humans, right? May all sentient beings. Sentience in this sense means like a self-awareness, right? Then there's like debates. Is a tree sentient? Is like, okay, this is too much for now, right? A general explanation in like this Tibetan text, they say if you poke a stick at it and it moves and tries to get away, it's sentient, So like, okay, maybe an ant they follow a chemical scent, it's like robotic. But you know what? If you start poking a stick in an ant, it's like on the ropes, it's trying to get out of the way. May all sentient beings have happiness and the causes of happiness to the best of our ability. It's like we're not going to walk around like, if you're trying to look at every single thing that you step on, like you're never going to get to work, like you'll starve and you'll die because you can't even right? So we need to have the aspiration to get to the level of openness where we can start to sense more. And this only is going to happen through like you sit, even when you're driving to work, or you're in the subway or you're whatever on a plane, like you have the ability to like, look, if you can sing a song while you're driving, right? If you can think about what you're going to eat for lunch while you're driving, you can also say an aspiration prayer while you're driving, So we have to start making different choices and different decisions about how we apply and spend our time. It doesn't mean don't like, yeah, I'm going to watch Netflix tonight. I'm going to find some documentary or movie I like, and I'm going to try to like, and not think about much and just zone out for a little bit. Okay. In reality, I'll probably like be scrolling through some kind of like prayer site, Tibetan stuff, but you can still like do things. You can still have the ice cream, right? We're in the West, like relationships and all this. We're not monastics necessarily. Maybe there's a monastic out there if you are. If not, we're living our normal lives. But what we're trying to do is expand our compassion, expand our awareness, and be on top of the reset button over and over and over and over. And it's just really going to benefit your own situation and others' situations, And until we can be like, instead of we're like on that stone in the ripple here, until we get to like, we feel that entire ripple, we do our best. And it's okay. We also need to remember, everything's okay, in the end. Then it's like, but there's war and there is, but like, what are you going to do? You can't single-handedly change everything, but what you can do is change your own awareness, right? So think about it this way, how I said, like, the person on death row, I have 1 minute to live, right? Even if they were the worst, let's say they're like conceptually the worst human being we can think of, shouldn't we also think like, I hope, okay, now we're assuming reincarnation again, right? Like they're going to reincarnate. There's going to be life continues. Shouldn't we feel like, I really pray that being doesn't do the same thing in their next life, And how are they going to do that? It's not through retribution. May they burn in hell. It's not going to be that, I guarantee their mind state's already hell. If you've done something so horrendous, and you have like this, and you're not like a complete robot, I guarantee, like, you're suffering, man. You're having nightmares at night. Like, we've all experienced it. We've done something that wasn't resonate with us, and like you felt like shit for a minute, a day, a week, a month. Guarantee, right? So why not? I hope that person doesn't repeat that action. How are they not going to repeat the action? It has to start a moment of reset. Don't they deserve that happiness as well? And if you don't think they do, then you're not really believing, or you don't have trust in this 4 statements, Again, it's reset, right? I hope they can reset for a half a second, And I hope that reset doesn't end. I hope it doesn't end, And karmically, this, whatever they did, it will ripen, And that's not judgment. What you do karmically will ripen. But still, I pray, I really, like, from the depths of my heart, I really, like, that's the motivation. I really wish people, like, I wish there was no suffering, man. I wish there was like this equanimity, and really feeling that and rippling that out, And I'm sure many of us like cry, if you think about it deeply, you just cry, man. It's like, my God, it's so much. There's so much suffering in the world,
Because you're wishing for true happiness, which is liberation from, that high. It's not just like, oh, he's forgiven and he's going to go on and just like eat and no, he's going on to the true happiness is that higher plane of compassion and liberation and understanding and those things.
100%, yeah.
And if you have that, you're not going to harm people.
Yeah, why would you? Once you understand karmic repercussion, I mean, karmic it's actually not difficult, right? If I go to the park right now and I throw a baseball at somebody's face, like there's going to be repercussion for it, you know? Like bystanders might come up and tackle me, and like I'm going to probably get arrested. I'm going to spend time in jail for like assaulting, and in jail I'm going to get assaulted. There's definitely karmic repercussion, and you can experience it right now, you know? If you're like, you know, I'm going to like drive recklessly, they're gonna get in an accident. It's like it's not difficult to understand the like the heavy external karmic repercussion of things. You know, it becomes difficult when you start thinking about subtlety, like why does a child starve? Then it becomes like you, from a dharmic point of view, like you need to contemplate and like think about like the explanations that are given and the logical consequence of things, right? But yeah, ultimately, like wishing for everybody's happiness really means I wish everybody can be at this place of equanimity, and I wish everybody understood and applied their actions through like karmic cause and effect, right? The repercussions and the understanding of karma cause and effect. Because if everybody did, like it would be a different world, you know? And it doesn't matter if we can even ever achieve that world, you know? It's not like we don't need to like, we aspire and pray that there's some kind of utopia like that. But in the meantime, there's not, it doesn't matter. You just put that out there. Put that out. You can make your own utopia in a 5-foot radius. Then you can just spread that out. And it's also not to, we shouldn't be frustrated with like, well, my surroundings aren't feeling that either. You know, like it's not, I'm happy, but everybody else is not. Then that's already some kind of microaggression. Everybody's not. You're clinging at like some kind of outcome, you know. First, okay, it's selfish in an unselfish way. Look, you're never going to benefit anybody or help anybody if you don't help yourself first. You know, help yourself, man. Help yourself, help the world. It's like something like that. Really, you got to like work on yourself, right, to release yourself, to be of like benefit to others, not even humans, just to others, you know, anything around you.
Like on the plane when they tell you got to put the oxygen mask on first in an emergency before you help other people.
Exactly. Yeah, this is really like a good analogy. Look, if you're struggling and miserable and angry, like that, prayer itself is going to do nothing, you know. You need what is a prayer and an aspiration but like the energetic written like expression of an experience, right? Like Buddha, an enlightened being, a saint, like these kind of people have they've internalized that experience, and a thought energy happens, it moves in their brain, right? Even physiologically, neurons fire at the brain, a thought, a pen in hand, a typewriter, they write that down, right? So this is like coming from an experience, you know. It's not just a dead word. Should be like a lived experience, you know. And then how do we live the experience? Again, reset, sit, like go into that like space that they connected with. Yeah.
And, well, thank you very much.
Yeah, thanks for allowing me to be in your space, and you guys.
You.
It's like,
thanks you for
I'm happy we can all sit together. It's nice.
Thank you for your generosity.
Yeah. We can say in this 1 hour, like we had, so when you hear like mandala and all this, like there's a mandala effect. Wherever we are in the world, like at least even for 2 seconds, like we all shared a similar state, you know. Now utopian, imagine if like the whole world tuned in for a minute. Then for like 1 minute, there would be, besides like a tiger killing something, like in the human world, there's the potential. If everybody could just 1 minute, like, and if you could experience that for 1 minute, like, I guarantee it'd be like, well, maybe we should try 2 minutes, you know? And it would spread out because, like, why wouldn't you? Yeah. Thank you.
Thank you. Yeah. Thank you, Nick, our producer, for his kindness and generosity, and for Brian's as well. Let's dedicate the merit of today's session. By this merit may all beings attain the state of enlightenment and conquer the enemy of faults and delusions. May they be liberated from this ocean of samsara and its pounding waves of birth, old age, sickness, and death. Thanks for bearing with the technical confusion of this week. Instagram, I hope, will be up today at some point, so check with the IG about next week's class. Also, you can always go to www.solidago, Solidago Productions.com/events to register and to see what else is going on. But if all goes well, we will have class next week at 11 a.m. Eastern with Lama Surya Das. Hope to see you next week.